The year is 1794. Imagine for a moment a dark and stormy night. Lightning flashes, thunder roars. A young woman named Mary Shelley begins to write a story. It's a story about life, death, and, well, what happens when we try to play God. This story will become famous as Frankenstein. Mary's story is a warning, a chilling look into the heart of our ambitions and the consequences of our actions. It asks us to consider the limits of science and the true meaning of humanity. And it all starts with a young scientist named Victor Frankenstein, a man obsessed with conquering death itself. Victor Frankenstein is a brilliant but troubled young man. He is haunted by death, desperate to unlock its secrets. Driven by this ambition, Victor dives into the forbidden realms of science. He collects bones, studies anatomy, and dreams of creating life from death. Fueled by his obsession, Victor spends countless nights in his laboratory. He believes he can cheat death, that he can build a living being from the dead. It's a dangerous game he's playing, tampering with forces he doesn't fully understand. After months of relentless work, Victor Frankenstein, a young and ambitious scientist, finally achieves what many would call impossible. Driven by a burning desire to unlock the secrets of life itself, he has spent countless sleepless nights in his shadowy laboratory, poring over ancient texts and conducting dangerous experiments. The air is thick with anticipation and the scent of chemicals, as Victor's obsession pushes him to the very edge of human endurance. With trembling hands, he gathers body parts from graveyards and dissecting rooms, sewing them together with meticulous care. Each stitch is a testament to his determination, and each bolt tightened is a step closer to his goal. Victor harnesses the raw power of electricity, believing it to be the key to reanimating lifeless flesh. The laboratory crackles with energy as he prepares for the final fateful moment. But the instant his creation stirs, Victor is seized by a wave of terror and revulsion. The reality of what he has done crashes over him, shattering the grand vision he once held. Instead of triumph, he feels only dread as the consequences of his actions become horrifyingly clear. The creature that rises from the table is not the beautiful, perfect being Victor had imagined in his fevered dreams. Under the flickering laboratory lights, a monstrous silhouette emerges, awkward, unnatural, and deeply unsettling. Its movements are jerky, its form grotesque, and its very existence seems to defy the laws of nature. What Victor has created is a grotesque monster, cobbled together from dead flesh and animated by unnatural means. The creature's skin is a patchwork of stitches and scars, its eyes filled with a haunting, childlike confusion. It is a being born not of love or hope, but of obsession and hubris. Overwhelmed by fear and guilt, Victor cannot bear to face the consequences of his experiment. He turns and flees, abandoning his creation in a moment of panic. The echoes of his footsteps ring through the empty corridors as he escapes into the darkness, desperate to leave behind the horror he has unleashed. The laboratory, once a place of hope and ambition, is now a scene of chaos and regret. Victor leaves the door ajar as he vanishes into the night, hoping that by running away he can somehow escape the consequences of his actions. But deep down he knows that what he has done cannot simply be forgotten. Some things, once set in motion, cannot be undone. The storm outside mirrors the turmoil within Victor's soul, and the spilled chemicals on the floor are a stark reminder of the irreversible choices he has made. The world has changed, and so has Victor, forever marked by his own ambition. Meanwhile, the creature, abandoned, confused, and utterly alone, must now fend for itself in a world that fears and rejects it. Cast out into the cold and darkness, it wanders through misty forests and empty streets, searching for meaning and belonging. Both creator and creation are left to grapple with the consequences of a creation gone terribly wrong. The creature, abandoned by its creator, is like a newborn child thrust into a world it doesn't understand. It is driven by basic needs for food, shelter, and connection, but its monstrous appearance terrifies everyone it encounters. Alone and longing for acceptance, the creature observes a family living in a cottage. It learns their language, their customs, and their dreams. It yearns for their love and acceptance, but its monstrous form makes that impossible. The night was thick with mist, and the air heavy with dread as I wandered through the tangled woods, my mind restless and my heart burdened by guilt. Suddenly, from the darkness, the creature emerged, its presence both terrifying and pitiful, driven by a loneliness that seemed to echo my own and a desperation that chilled me to the bone. The creature confronted me beneath the twisted branches. It began to speak, its voice trembling with emotion. It told me of its suffering, of the endless pain of being shunned by every living soul it encountered. The creature's words painted a vivid picture of isolation, wandering through the world, always on the outside, always met with fear and hatred. Its longing for companionship was palpable, a deep ache that resonated in every word it spoke. I listened, unable to look away from the sorrow etched into its face. With trembling hands, the creature reached out to me, its eyes pleading for understanding. It begged me to create a companion for it, a being who would not recoil in horror, who would share in its suffering and perhaps in time offer it the solace of friendship. The plea was not just for another life, but for a chance at redemption for both of us. I could feel the weight of its request pressing down on me, heavy and inescapable. I stood there, torn between terror and a profound sense of responsibility. The memory of my own actions, the act of creation that had unleashed this suffering, haunted me. I was caught in a storm of emotions. Fear of what might come, guilt for what I had done, and a strange, reluctant empathy for the creature's plight. The decision before me was agonizing, and I felt utterly alone in the darkness of my own making. After a long, tortured silence, I finally gave my answer. My voice was barely more than a whisper as I agreed to the creature's request, my words heavy with reluctance and dread. In that moment, a pact was made, a fragile promise born out of fear, guilt, and a desperate hope that perhaps by granting the creature's wish, I might find some measure of peace for us both. And so, burdened by my promise, I set out for a remote, windswept island far from the eyes of the world. There, surrounded by the relentless crash of waves and the howling wind, I began the grim work of creating a second creature, a mate for the first. The isolation of the island mirrored the isolation in my soul, and each day I toiled in my makeshift laboratory, haunted by the enormity of what I was about to do. Yet as the days passed and my work progressed, a growing sense of dread began to gnaw at me. Doubt and horror crept into my heart, whispering of the consequences that might follow. I questioned whether I was about to unleash even greater suffering upon the world, and whether any promise, no matter how desperate, could justify what I was about to do. The night was thick with dread as I stood in my dimly lit laboratory, the flickering candlelight casting monstrous shadows on the walls. My hands trembled with a mixture of fear and revulsion as I gazed upon the lifeless form of my second creation. The memory of my first mistake haunted me, and I could not bear the thought of unleashing another being into a world already scarred by my ambition. Driven by a desperate urge to prevent further tragedy, I destroyed my work before it could ever draw breath, shattering glass and splintering wood in a frantic, feverish act. The echoes of my destruction rang through the empty halls, a testament to my terror and guilt. In that single, irreversible moment, I betrayed the creature's fragile trust. It had pleaded for a companion, a soul to share its endless loneliness, and I had promised to grant its wish. But my fear overpowered my compassion, and I shattered not only my creation, but also the creature's last hope for happiness. I condemned it to wander the world alone, forever isolated, forever yearning for a connection it would never find. The weight of my decision pressed down on me, and I knew I had set in motion a chain of suffering that could never be undone. The creature, hidden in the shadows, witnessed my act of destruction. Its eyes, once filled with hope, now burned with betrayal and rage. In that instant, something inside it broke. The pain of rejection twisted into a vow of vengeance, a promise that I would feel the same agony I had inflicted upon it. The creature's wrath was silent but absolute, and I could sense the storm gathering in its heart. It swore to make me suffer as it had suffered, to strip away everything I held dear. The creature's anguish became a force of nature, relentless and consuming. I could feel its presence haunting me, a shadow that stretched across every waking moment, reminding me of the price of my broken promise. The world seemed colder, emptier, as if the creature's sorrow had seeped into the very air I breathed. Consumed by rage and despair, the creature embarked on a path of destruction. Its pain became its purpose, and it lashed out at the world that had rejected it. I lived in constant fear, haunted by the knowledge that my actions had unleashed a force I could no longer control. Every thunderstorm, every shattered window, every echoing footstep in the night filled me with dread, for I knew the creature was out there, driven by a fury I had created. The creature's vengeance struck with devastating precision. It took the life of my beloved younger brother, snuffing out his innocence in a single, merciless act. To deepen my torment, it framed a young woman for the crime, ensuring that my family's suffering would be complete. The grief and horror that followed were unbearable, and I was powerless to stop the nightmare I had unleashed. I am honestly consumed by guilt and grief, left to face the consequences of my actions. The faces of those I loved haunted my dreams, and every waking moment was a reminder of my failure. I could not escape the knowledge that I was the architect of my own misery, that my ambition and fear had destroyed everything I once held dear. The creature's shadow looms large over me, a constant, chilling reminder of my broken promises and the heavy price of my ambition. No matter where I go, I cannot escape its presence. It is the darkness at the edge of every light, the echo in every empty room, the silent witness to my endless regret. My soul is forever marked by the wrath I have unleashed, and I am left to wander in the ruins of my own making, pursued by the consequences of a choice I can never undo. The creature's reign of terror, well, it continues, driving me to the very brink of madness. It takes the life of Elizabeth, my beloved, on our wedding night, turning what should have been my joy into ashes. I lose everything, my family, my love, my dreams, all consumed by the consequences of what I've done. Consumed by grief and determined to end the creature's reign of terror, I chase my creation across the world, from the icy wilderness of the Arctic to the desolate landscapes of the North Pole. But honestly, the pursuit consumes me, leaving me a broken and dying man. As I lie dying, I encounter a ship on an expedition to the Arctic. I share my story, a cautionary tale of ambition and its consequences. I warn of the dangers of playing God and, the importance of responsibility for our creations. The creature, drawn to my deathbed, appears one last time. It expresses remorse for its actions, but also, reiterates its pain and loneliness. It is a tragic figure, a monster created not by science, but by neglect and cruelty. With my death, the story ends, but really, the questions it raises continue to haunt us. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is a timeless tale, a warning about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of empathy and compassion. The story of Victor Frankenstein and his creation reminds us that every action has consequences. It challenges us to consider the ethical implications of scientific advancements and the true meaning of humanity. Above all, it teaches us that true monstrosity often lies not in physical appearance, but in the cruelty we inflict upon each other.